I really, really did not want to make this video, but like, I kind of feel like I have to just to get my thoughts out. So, the reason why I'm making this is in case you somehow didn't know, YouTube has issued a AI verification thing, and the UK is not doing very smart things right now. Um, so this will be partially scripted. I'm kind of just going off of my own words, and I'm sorry if it doesn't really make much sense because I'm not really used to making these kind of videos like this, covering topics like this, but I'm just gonna give a brief rundown of what's going on, and I don't know everything necessarily. I'm just going off of what I've learned, and I'm just here to give my thoughts on it. I'm not really here to do anything else. But I will have some links in the description for things you can do. I'll get into it later. But there are people that have covered these situations better than I could. A good example would be Deep Humor. I would heavily suggest you go support his channel. Alright, so let me just get into the first one. Alright, so what's happening right now? Alright, so what's happening? This is going to be a brief rundown of what has been happening over the past few weeks. I think months, I don't know. So lately the UK has issued an online safety act which is meant to protect children from any harmful or adult content such as violence or suggestive or sexual stuff. You know, it's all good, you know? However, how it works is someone has to give their ID if they want to view any mature content or purchase any mature content. And that causes a few problems. You know, if you're required to give your ID or face, I forgot to mention that, face too, as well as driver's license for some, I think. Pretty much just anything that, you know, would prove your age or anything. And this is mostly happening in the UK, but it's also for the EU as well. So basically just Europe. Now with the age verification thing, other platforms will and are following the same thing, such as Spotify and Instagram and YouTube, which I'll get into right now. So the next thing is YouTube has started today an AI age verification, and basically what it does is it tracks what you watch and your behavior on YouTube to determine if you are over or under the age of 18. So if you watch videos that are marked as made for kids, it will likely mark you as a child, despite you already saying your age. And, you know, not everyone likes it. And I mean, most people don't like it, especially myself. And what YouTube has been doing is they are censoring and silencing people who, well, talk about it or disagree with what they're doing. And they especially love to target Deep Humor with these strikes, these bans, and all that stuff. And what all this means is these companies, these people with power, they don't care about their kids. They want control. They want to watch your every move, and then use it for God knows what. I don't even know myself. That's basically what's happening. I don't know if that was long. I'm sorry if it was long. But let me just get into the next thing. So, why are people upset, if that isn't obvious enough? So, many people, including myself, just don't want to give out their identity to some random people just to view some case on a crime or something, you know? And especially people don't want to show their face. You know, because, there could be various reasons why someone doesn't want to show their face. Either just don't like their appearance, or they just don't want people to know what they look like. For any reason, and all those reasons are valid. Especially for those that are underage, or just don't want people to know what they look like. Because that, could risk their privacy, too. And forcing people to show their ID just so they can access certain things that will likely be valuable to them is a violation of privacy and rights altogether. And also a violation of the First Amendment. And it definitely doesn't help children. It, in fact, does the opposite. Especially, imagine there was a data breach. That would be bad. Very, very bad. Millions of people would have their IDs just like out in the open, anyone to access. And that's why most people don't want to give out their IDs, because, there's a huge risk to their privacy, their identity, everything. And I've already mentioned this before, but a lot of people believe this is just for control, to feel powerful, and to just feel like they rule over everyone. And they want you to believe that you can't have freedom of speech. And they want you to think that you're going to be trapped. And with them claiming that this is for the children, they are exploiting people's empathy for their own selfish needs. They are exploiting your empathy for children, making you feel bad by saying, oh, think about the children. Don't post this or don't buy that. Think about the children. It's not. It's not. And yeah, I'm gonna get into the next thing now. So, what are the potential consequences? So, this isn't a threat. This isn't a threat to any of those people that are issuing these acts and stuff. Think of it as a warning. And throughout history, whenever there were people trying to control their people, there would always be a group of people banding together to work against whoever's trying to control who. And humans are well adapted for protecting themselves against any threats or things that would inhibit their freedom. And the channel Hazy Black does a better explanation than I could about what could happen with all these censorships and all that. So I suggest you go check it out if you want to. Next is, by censoring sensitive topics and not allowing people with an ID to access it, it can be catastrophic for those seeking support through their struggles. Like if they live in a bad situation and these censorships not allowing them to access support groups or certain videos with people that, share a similar experience, it could be really bad. Really, really bad. Because not everyone has support in their own space. They need, or like some people will need online stuff to seek support. and find people in a similar situation so they don't feel alone. And in less intense consequences, if these companies force people to give out their IDs, it'll likely discourage a bunch of people from using their apps and purchasing anything from them because, they just don't want to show their ID. Lastly, people will find workarounds. They will use fake IDs. They're going to use AI. They're going to use, like Gmod. Like, I've heard of people, like, using Gmod to bypass age verification in Britain. And as I mentioned before, humans are adapted to protect themselves and having a higher brain function to get around obstacles and problems. Or people can use, their brains to get what they want for malicious intent, such as hacking a site, getting IDs, and just having it laid out in the open for anyone to access and view and use for God knows what. And that's just a brief rundown of that. There could be way more things that could happen. And it's not gonna turn out well, I think. I seriously think that it's just gonna keep on, it's just gonna spark something probably. And thankfully people are starting to act against it, especially with the Clippy thing. Probably noticed my PFP is Clippy now. That's one thing that people are doing. They're, acting against it. They're getting petitions. I linked a petition in the description that you can sign if you want to go against the AI age verification on YouTube. There's others they can probably go check out or look for. I don't really want to look for that myself right now, but there's others for the UK and other things. And last thing, what are my thoughts on it? Okay. So, first, I'm just an outsider. I'm not in the US. I'm in Canada. But since I'm in Canada, I'll probably be affected by this ID stuff too. And I've heard that Canada is trying to do the same thing too with the Online Safety Act. And yeah, Americans aren't going to be the only ones affected by this, because I forgot to mention that YouTube is issuing this in the US. So I may or may not get affected, but if I do down the line, it's not going to turn out well for me, probably. No, it may be a little bit corny, or I don't know. But I've heard people talk about the dead internet theory, with especially focusing on AI and how it's killing, creators and all that stuff. I feel like that could also apply to this ID stuff. Because, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's going to discourage people from going on the internet altogether. Because they just don't want to give their IDs, they'll find alternatives, and that's a good thing, honestly. Well, for some it can be, because the internet can be damaging to most people. No, is damaging to most people. And, there'll be less people on the internet, actually doing things that they probably haven't done in a while. So, next I want to mention is, it was never about the children. You probably heard people mention this all the time, and I've heard and I mentioned this like 4 times, I think. They just want control. They don't care about the children. They're just using that as a way to justify it. And another thing I want to mention is games don't mean it'll become reality. It's called fiction for a reason. There is this thing called Collective Shout that is meant to defend women from objectification and other things like that. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to, have Steam get rid of games. That's stupid in my opinion. Like, really, really, really stupid. And those people too just want to, want that control. And something I feel is really important to me, people need to learn how to be parents again and actually monitor what their children are doing instead of letting these random old people, decide what their children should and shouldn't watch or look at. I feel like since the internet was made, and especially since YouTube was made, parents forgot how to be parents and just relied on these videos and online spaces and TVs to watch their children for them. The thing is, children aren't idiots. They will find their ways into these adult spaces, whether their parents want them to or not. And they need to be taught... My throat is kind of dry, sorry. They need to be taught how to avoid danger instead of being sheltered and, just teach your children. Teach your children that they shouldn't be in certain spaces. But here's the catch. They will see something down the line. Whether you like it or not, they will see something. Alright? They're going to see things. They're not going to be children forever. And they won't stay innocent forever. But still, you should teach your children the dangers, and if they do see something, tell them why it's wrong, discourage them from looking at it again, and just parent, just be a parent, or maybe not even be a parent at all if you can't watch over your children and rely on these, videos and stuff, And with my experience from not being monitored either, that messed me up. That really messed me up. I'm not going to get too deep into it. And just monitor your children, please. And don't let these random old people monitor your children for you. They're not their parents. You are their parents. Or guardians or whatever. Last thing I want to end on, or the last two things, is how will the age verification affect me and other creators? I've heard a few things thrown around that if someone's channel gets flagged as under 18, it will probably private their videos by default. That's what they implied, but they didn't say if you could turn it off. And if my channel gets flagged as under 18, it's gonna affect me greatly. And since my early days of YouTube, I've always wanted to entertain and all that. And with all this stuff, all this censorship, it's kind of ruining my opportunity and many others' opportunities to do it as well. It wasn't like that. Think back to 10 years ago. It wasn't like that. You didn't have to worry about what you said or what you did on YouTube. You could just do whatever. Of course, with basic guidelines, but for the most part, you had your freedom to make whatever you want and look at whatever you wanted. Sure, it was flawed, and a lot of children saw things they shouldn't have. But, you know, that's just life, honestly. You know, you don't live without mistakes and trauma, or rather, you don't live without also witnessing some not very nice things. And just, I really want YouTube to be the same way it was back in like 2015, because that was around the same time I had YouTube, when I first got YouTube. And it's changed drastically, especially since I think 2017. I don't know. I wasn't really up to date with everything, but I just wish it was the same way again that it was, Like when you're online, you didn't have to worry about, some company getting mad at you just because you said fuck, or some other swear word or covered a sensitive topic. People were just having fun back then. Little worries and not many things to watch out for in terms of, like, what am I trying to say here? Like, they didn't have to worry about how their channels or accounts would be affected by whatever content they were just posting because they want to do it for fun or maybe for money, And recently, obviously, everyone is being infantized by these companies. And, well, I think you already know. And just, I wish these companies and governments would just stop trying to, coddle, these people. I just wish people would have their freedom again. Like it's not how it was 100 years ago, Like, I thought that people stood for freedom. Especially the UK. That's what they claim to, but they don't. Anyway, before this gets way too long, that's pretty much all I wanted to say, really. I will probably stay on YouTube, but I'm not gonna watch any made for kids stuff, but just, yeah, you can look at some of the videos that explain it better than I can. I'll leave links in the description, like I said. And I hope this video doesn't get taken down, because if it does, then that really shows YouTube does not like people disagreeing with them. And I just hope my channel stays fine after this. I didn't want to make this video, but kind of had to. Yeah, that's all I got now.